And welcome back to African Perspective as we continue to look at the WTO. And today our guest is Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, who is a researcher on international economic law. As she walks into that institution on the 1st of March, she has outlined what some of her priorities would be. But what do you think some of the aspects that she probably would need to focus on, and probably some of the stumbling blocks that you may find along the way? She spoke about the Ministerial 12, for instance, as well.
So she walks in a very difficult year. We've got a ministerial conference this year, and the ministerial conference is essentially the highest decision-making body of the WTO. And so she has to prepare for that. That's the first thing. But I would say the number one priority that she has to engage in, and I think that's something that she's aware of, is getting the buy-in and the support of the members with regards to her own agenda. So that's the first. And also getting the buy-in and the support of the secretariat, the staff, the people that work for her and work with her at the WTO. Those, for me, will be the two priorities that she needs to really get right in the first year. Because once you've got the support of the membership, you've got the support of the secretariat, you can really, really make a lot of changes. However, if you don't have the support of those two bodies, so to speak, your tenure SDG is a really difficult and challenging one.
Okay, and just finally, she also says that at least by the end of the year, she would have loved to have agreement around some of the aspects and concerns that have been raised around the dispute settlement system that is in place. Is she setting the bar too high for herself? Is she being too ambitious?
I don't think there's such a thing as being too ambitious, personally. But I think she can, if, again, I reiterate what I said in the last minute or so. If she gets the buy-in of the members and works closely with Ambassador Walker of New Zealand, who's been tasked with helping members reach some sort of consensus and agreement. So I think what she needs to do, if she makes that a priority for this year, which I think she could achieve that before the ministerial conference. Mm-hmm. That at the ministerial conference, all they do is rubber stamp whatever agreement members have come up with. Because members, and she pointed this out, members agree that they need an appellate body, that they need a dispute settlement system. So this is the most efficient dispute settlement system in the entire world. It's produced more cases than all the other international dispute settlement systems combined over the last 25 years. It's effective, it bites, and so earlier you mentioned that it's just merely persuasive. The WTO is not merely persuasive. The WTO is a powerful organization, and one of its powerful entities is its dispute settlement system. And if she can solve that this year, then her legacy and her agenda is sort of cleared for the rest of the 4 years, and she might even get a second term.
Okay, thank you so much for that.
So I don't think she's being ambitious. I think she can achieve it if she works closely with the ambassador in charge of this process, if she listens to all members, developed and least developing. And listens just beyond, because people have created that the crisis is just between China and the United States. But this crisis is greater than just China and the United States. It involves every single member. There are members that are dissatisfied with the dispute settlement system for different reasons. So she really needs to engage each and every single member, understand why they are dissatisfied, and get some sort of negotiation with all members where they give and take, because that's how the system works. It's a give and take.
Okay, thank you so much for that, Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, who is a researcher on international economic law. Really appreciate your time. And with that said, let's take a look at where Dr. Okonjo-Iweala's journey started. Our U.S. correspondent, Sherwin Briceby, spoke to her earlier last year.
Why do you believe you are the best person to lead the World Trade Organization at this time and in this geopolitical context?
Well, thank you. That's a loaded question, but let me begin by saying that the WTO is as important as it's ever been, because trade is very important, as important as it has ever been for the 21st century. And the WTO has the rules that underpins the multilateral trading system. But the WTO is facing a lot of challenges. I'll just mention 2 or 3 because they are related to the reason why I think I'm the best candidate. The WTO's dispute settlement system is paralyzed at the moment. And, for a rule-making organization, this undermines the credibility if the very place where the rules can be monitored and people can bring complaints does not work. The WTO has not completed multilateral negotiations for quite some time, but their ongoing fisheries subsidies negotiations, which if brought to a conclusion, could really be a win for the WTO. We are in the midst of COVID-19 at the moment, and the WTO has some rules that could really make trade in medicines, vaccines, and pharmaceuticals much easier, more accessible. You remember many countries have put export restrictions on medical supplies and equipment. And there are some rules about members of the WTO having to notify others, making this export restriction temporary, transparent, and proportionate. Well, if we apply those rules, then it could help us to open up the trade in medical supplies and equipment. The WTO is all about trade. And trade affects every single one of us, even down in the rural areas, in the village. We produce things, we sell them to other people. Some of these things are sold on in bulk to people elsewhere, in other countries or even within the same country. So it's all about trade. And trade is one of the means by which we improve our living standards, our economics. So to the ordinary woman and man in the street, if you're talking about trading in goods that you produce or buying other goods, that's what the WTO rules underpin, and that's why it matters to the person on the street that they should work. And I just want to say that the WTO's rules also need to be upgraded to digital economy, the green economy, and it needs new rules to underpin micro, medium, and small enterprises and women in trade. That, again, is something that matters very much to the ordinary person, because in our countries in Africa, there's so many micro, medium, and small enterprises. Many of them are owned by women. And if we can get them to produce more, trade more, and be part of the regional and local supply chains, people's living standards will improve. That's why the WTO matters.
Well, that was when she was still in the running to become the Director General, and now she is about to head that particular role from the 1st of March. Here's another tweet from President Cyril Ramaphosa congratulating one of the members of the International Investment Advisory Council, and that, of course, is the Director General Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, saying heartfelt congratulations to the new WTO Director General, Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala. Ms. Iweala is the first woman and first African to lead this global institution. Her election signals a global unity of purpose and demonstrates a strong commitment to deepening gender equality. When we come back, we continue our conversation now, looking also around the rollout of vaccines, including here in South Africa, but also what's happening in Zimbabwe.